Yes, it's Tim Wiggins here from Exclusive Networks. I'm one of the vendor managers responsible for Fortinet. Welcome to the Friday morning Forti Fridays and the WebEx sessions that we are running. These are all part of our, that we're running as part of our authorized partner program, but they are open to all partners as well. And the aim of these sessions is actually to give you some insight into some of the stuff that's going on within Fortinet, bring you up to date in terms of training, run small training sessions, and we've also got quite a few technical sessions coming up. So we've run technical sessions on the FortiGate 5.4. We've also run one on FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer. Next week's technical session on Friday morning is going to be specifically around the Fortinet wireless infrastructure products and some of the associated support products around that as well. Please do let the rest of your teams know about the WebExes. We are sending out invites, but anyone is welcome to join these WebExes. And utilize them, help you guys get trained and get you up to speed on some of the products as well. If you have any queries, anything like that, any questions during the sessions, please do let me know. Just drop us a quick note in on the chat side. I'm more than happy to answer the questions. Also, if there's anything that you would rather cover afterwards as well, you're welcome to drop me an email or give me a call. I am in the office mostly on Fridays anyway for these sessions. Welcome to give me a call as well, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So as I said, we're running these every Friday. Sue Thomas is also runs a WebEx one about marketing one about once a month, covering some of the stuff around marketing and what we've got with some of the campaigns that are coming up as well. So as I said, we will be sending out a reviewed schedule as well next week on what we're doing over the next 2 quarters as well, so the next half of the year for these WebExes with some agendas and items of what's being covered. So this morning I want to cover off, really just run through some sales focus. The aim is really just to bring you up to date with where we are with Fortinet, what the main products are that are selling, and help you understand some of the key areas and differentiators around Fortinet as well. So just really just about 30 minutes on that, and as I said, ask any questions as we go along. So very briefly, as an introduction to Fortinet, Fortinet have been around since 2001, 2002, and they've been steadily growing year on year. The growth has been around 30 to 35% year on year. So very significant growth. In terms of where Fortinet sit with all the security vendors out there as well, Fortinet are in effect number 3 in the world in terms of revenue. They are number 1 in the world in terms of number of units shipped. So they are the number 1 shipper of units, and that's because of the variation in security appliances. Everything from a very small 20, 30D type units, able to deal with 5, 10 users running through them, right up to the high-end chassis being reused by the likes of the carriers as well. So they have a huge or a large variation in the actual FortiGate units that I'm mostly going to cover off this morning. In terms of products, Fortinet have got some 26 products on there. We don't expect people to be selling them all. And in actual fact, the FortiGate units on the top end here account for around 80% of everything that we sell. In addition to that, we do sell a significant number of access points attached to the FortiGates, and with Fortinet's acquisition of Maru, that product now becomes the wireless infrastructure product, That's installed in around 4,500 schools in the UK and growing. So that will start to become a significant portion of the Fortinet business as well. And that's an opportunity to grow business. So you know, if you're moving into and doing security, and you've got customers looking at connectivity and want secure connectivity, then moving into the wireless side can be very beneficial and some significant growth areas as well. As I said, so you can actually attach a FortiGate access point onto a FortiGate. There is a wireless controller in there, and I'll touch base on a bit more of that. We also have the ability to manage multiple FortiGates with things like FortiManager. It's more than just a management tool, in fact. It allows you to implement change control across FortiGate units. So, for example, you can actually implement FortiGates on a customer's behalf if they want to manage things, certain components within the actual FortiGates. So they may not want to manage the web filtering. That person could change that web filtering, and it could then go through a change process. So it has to go to a manager. They approve the change, and then only then does it actually get implemented and released. And that's geared around a multi-tenanted environment as well. So if you want to provide managed services, a lot of managed service providers out there are now using FortiManager to manage their whole the FortiGate estate, and not just for themselves, but also for their customers who may have them installed on their sites. We've got FortiAnalyzer, again a multi-tenanted reporting tool, allows us to do some detailed reporting of who accessed what website, what security threats came through, and again do some detailed reporting and generate reports on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, automate that reporting so that customers don't just think that they've got a box sitting in a corner with some blinking lights on it. It actually shows what that's doing, the throughput through it, etc. Just coming down to the bottom, we've also got FortiClient. It's an area of growth that we've seen. So FortiClient allows us to take the web filtering, allows us to take the antivirus functionality as well, and some of the rules, and push that out into a client. So we can actually do the AV on the FortiClient. We can actually implement web filtering rules. Intrusion prevention goes onto the client as well, and allows us to actually deploy that down to a mobile device, so be that a Windows, iOS, Mac, Linux, and various other variants of that client as well. FortiToken allows us to implement two-factor authentication. We can do it as a physical token, as we've got here, or it could be a soft token on a mobile device. So people could be using two-factor authentication to log into the VPN, access some of the network resources as well within that. And FortiCloud geared more around the smaller users with a FortiGate unit with maybe 5-10 users running through that. So we can do some reporting with FortiCloud and manage that FortiGate unit remotely. In addition to that, FortiCloud, you can now get access points, so we can actually supply cloud-based access points, and those can be managed through the cloud as well. So a customer can buy a cloud-managed access point, simply plug that into their network. It will then go to FortiCloud, and you can manage things like the SSID, manage the guest access and things through the FortiCloud offering as well. And lastly, on this top list, we've also got the capabilities of doing sandboxing. So for advanced persistent threats, so we can take files and network traffic, put it into an environment where it literally emulates an endpoint device and does a check to see what the actual device does, or sorry, what the piece of software does. See if it does turn around and does a call out to the or does a call out to the website, a malicious website. Does it turn around and change any registry items? Is it doing something we're not expecting it to do? Is it a piece of malware? And if it is, we can then turn around and flag that piece of malware and stop it going any further within the network. So that's the main products that are also associated with the FortiGate as well. Some of the other products that we see customers looking at is, obviously there's a lot of displacement going on at the moment with various mail products out there. There's McAfee. We're doing some displacement of that. We've got some customers who are using Office 365 who are not happy with the ability to manage some of their domains or where the traffic or the data is actually being stored as well. So they're now looking to do something on site. So FortiMail allows us to implement security as a gateway, or we can actually implement FortiMail as a full-blown mail server as well as part of that. And the other one on here is FortiWeb. FortiWeb provides a web application firewall for websites, protecting against OWASP Top 10, helping customers achieve PCI compliance. And in addition to that, it provides layer 7 DDoS protection. So that's where someone's trying to exhaust the resources of a web server as well. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to particularly focus more on the FortiGate and the associated products moving forward from here. So in terms of the actual FortiGate itself, we quite often get asked, what's a UTM, what's the functionality on a FortiGate? So effectively what we're doing with a FortiGate unit is we're taking the combination of different products or different components and integrating them into a single common platform. So within the FortiGate unit, we can do we do antivirus, so protecting against malware, be that coming through the network, be that implemented within a piece of email, or it being someone's gone out to a malicious website as well. So stopping the malware from coming down through into the network. We can do anti-spam on a FortiGate, and to be honest with you, it does actually work. However, it's not the same as having a full-blown email server or email security appliance in place. It will catch about 80% of the spam. If you want to really be quite hard with spam and email security, we do recommend you putting in a dedicated appliance for that, or a dedicated service for email security, where you can actually do the anti-spam at the very high level, and also start doing things like checking into the details of the emails as well, and the links and the likes. We've also got the ability to do or taking web filtering, so looking at protecting which websites customers or users are going to, make sure that they're not going to gambling websites, shopping websites, pornography, malware sites, and the likes. So the web filtering is in there to do that. And if you're deploying a product or a FortiGate into a school, we do things like Google Safe Search within that as well, and we can also do deep packet inspection as part of what we do within that. We've also got application control. So, for example, if a user is prohibited from going to Facebook, for example, a lot of marketing groups within organizations, they actually want their marketing team to be able to access Facebook. Social media is a key part of what they're doing. However, what they don't want to do is allow the users to play games on Facebook. So the application control allows them to do that. So they allow them to give them access to Facebook through the web filtering, but restrict them from playing games, for example, within Facebook. And there's also some other functions within the application control. So we can also do bandwidth limitations on within the application control as well. So we can, for example, if peer-to-peer is enabled, or an FTP, allowing FTP traffic to come through, we can also do some clever things with doing bandwidth limitations and stopping people from grabbing hold of all the bandwidth and hogging the bandwidth coming through. IPS, intrusion prevention service, stopping potential threats coming back through the network as well. It's predominantly signature based, and it's also linked in with IP botnet tracking as well. So stopping malicious botnets from trying to come through the network and probing and seeing what's actually running behind the network. We also have facilities to do VPNs, so we can do IPsec client to device VPN services. There are around 7 different flavors of that. So we can do that. So we can put in a FortiGate in one site, a FortiGate in another site, and we can create a secure VPN link between them. Or I, as a user going out of the office, can connect into the VPN service as well. So I can create a secure VPN link into the actual FortiGate and into the network as well. And that VPN service, you can also use it with other users' devices out there as well. So you can use other people's VPN clients on the desktop as long as it conforms to some of the industry standards around VPN. And we can also hook up and can potentially connect to a Juniper box and set up a VPN service to that as well. So all that facilities are in there. We've also got the capability of doing WAN acceleration and also WAN link load balancing from a FortiGate. So we can have multiple links into the FortiGate and balance that through. So what we've done with the UTM, and we quite often you refer to it as the FortiGate UTM, here on the right hand side we've taken all those technologies and we've combined it into a single platform. And in addition to that, within the platform itself, we've also got the ability to do what we call DLP, data loss prevention. What we can do with that is we can tag files within a network or a file server within a network and effectively put electronic watermarking on those files. And if those files are trying to be sent out the network, we can actually prohibit them as going out. And it doesn't matter if the person changes the name of the file, edits the file, tries to disguise the file in any manner, the electronic watermark is picked up and it will terminate the actual file being sent through the network and out of the network. Example of where I've got that running, we've got a bunch of architects up north. They have got the DLP side switched on to one of their file servers, and no one is able to send out any drawings out of the organization. It has to go through a specific person or people within the company to approve and for the drawings to be enabled and to be sent out. So that's how they keep track of the actual architectural drawings that they're doing. That's their intellectual property. That's part of what they are doing and delivering. Within the FortiGate unit itself as well, there is also a wireless controller and a two-factor authentication controller in there too. Hopefully all that makes sense to you all out there as well. So when we talk about FortiGate UTM, we're talking about an appliance having all those capabilities running on the unit as well. FortiGate, in terms of leadership in the UTM market, they are in the top right-hand quadrant with Gartner, and they're in there for the 8th year running. We're waiting for the Gartner report to come out in the next month or so for this year, and we will update this list as well. We don't anticipate this moving too much at all. They've also gone through the NSS labs, so that's been tested through NSS labs. And I did recently see another NSS Labs report on some of the antivirus testing as well for FortiGate, and the Fortinet antivirus is in fact tested with all the other AVs on an ongoing basis. So it is actually literally monitored week on week for making sure it does meet the security requirements on an ongoing basis. What makes Fortinet unique, where's part of their competitive advantage, is in fact around their hardware. So on a FortiGate itself, they have their own custom-built ASICs. So they've got their own network processor, they've got their own content processor within their units. On the lower end units, they have got these are combined into what we call a SOC, a security on a chip. Within the lower end units, and Fortinet owns all those technologies. So they actually have built this technology since inception in 2001, 2002, and they're continuing to develop and enhance those processing chips and that in there. And what this means is that if you're doing things like antivirus, the content processor actually does that and offloads and manages the actual checking of the actual content. Similarly, the network processor does the network management side, it does the SSL offloading, and managing the throughput on there. And this gives Fortinet the key advantage over a lot of competitors that are using generic platforms, in that performance is one of the key things that we can do. And some of the new products that are coming out, some of the very high-end products, we're talking about 100 gig interfaces on those as well now too. So it's very significant, and that's where we're gaining some good footholds as well into the large enterprise and the carrier markets. So performance, key part of that. Fortinet also owns all these technologies. So as I said to you earlier on, I was going through what's on the UTM. So Fortinet, their VPN, the web filtering, the FortiClient side of things, the wireless controller in there, the antivirus, etc., is all owned by Fortinet. It's their technologies. They are continuing to develop that technology as well. And what this means is that we don't have to provide individual for these components. You buy a FortiGate unit, you buy it with a UTM bundle on there, and you get all these services on, and you turn on what you want and you turn off what you don't want. So it's all in there and running. I mentioned performance and the custom ASICs, so that is all within the FortiGate side as well. So again, Fortinet develop, they manufacture those units themselves. So that's one of their key components of the actual FortiGate side. And that's all backed up as well by the FortiGuard labs. So FortiGuard labs, this is key to their ability to keep up to date with what threats are going around and what's going on in the threat marketplace as well. So FortiGuard labs, the threat research team, consists of approximately 260 people. They are getting feeds in from the 2.4 million devices that Fortinet have got out there. They also work with the other AV vendors and some of the other research organizations, and they are then taking those technologies and enhancing the FortiGate platform, the FortiOS, and some of the actual technologies that are within the FortiGate unit to keep those products up to date with the threats that are out there in the marketplace. And if for some of that you don't know, we've just released, or a couple of months ago, there was Fortinet OS version 5.4 released, and some of the technologies and some of the developments and threats that they'd picked up in the areas of the web application firewall are now being integrated into the FortiGate because they saw those as being key to making sure that that the FortiGate units are up to date and keeping abreast of these threats that are out there. So this is very quite important, we feel. So what's in a FortiGate? Yep, you've got a FortiGate unit. I will say you can run a FortiGate as a VM. However, you then lose the benefits of the ASIC chips, and you are then reliant on the platform that you're running on. And I have had customers who have taken, some of them are running FortiGates as a VM very successfully, small number of users running through them. Some of them have gone down the VM route, and as I said, it is dependent on the platforms they're running on. And you will see that you know, they're then starting to end up having to offload and run all that data through on a VM platform, and some of those platforms may struggle with the volume of traffic coming through and the SSL offload and that type of thing. So just be aware of that if you are thinking about going down the VM route. So sitting on within that platform is the custom ASICs and the content ASICs as well. Within that environment, sitting on top of that is the Fortinet OS. As I said, we've just released 5.4, and 5.4.1 got released last week as well, fixing some minor interface bugs and that on the from 5.4. But on top of that, we've got our wireless controller. So as I said, every FortiGate has a wireless controller, so we can manage different numbers of FortiGate access points. And we've got a two-factor authentication controller, so we can use the Fortinet tokens and do two-factor authentication. In the middle, VDOMs, we can virtualize a FortiGate, so we can actually take it and carve up a FortiGate into virtual instances as well. used quite widely with our MSSPs. I've also seen some other customers just doing this where they wanted to segregate certain parts of their network totally differently and certain traffic. So you can actually carve up a FortiGate into a VDOM and have that running as its own specific instance. And for all intents and purposes, it runs as its own separate FortiGate unit. So if you carved it up with 10 instances, for example, you could have 10 individual customers running through that box as well as part of that. And every unit comes with the ability to do and run VDOMs on it without any additional licensing as well. You just are limited by how many you can put on the initial lower end units before you need to upgrade. On top of that, we've got our traditional UTM features. So you have the factual firewall functions blocking certain ports, the VPN services, the anti-spam, antivirus, and web filtering. Then one I think is a bit of a misnomer, this whole area of next generation firewall. So we can do the application control. We can control what applications can be run through the FortiGate as well. As I mentioned, you could allow someone to for example, access to Facebook, but not allow them to run gaming within Facebook, allow them to tweet but not download files, etc. Intrusion prevention linked with the botnet IP, protecting customers from intrusions. Botnets. Botnets are Google has a botnet, for example, that searches websites and certain links for traffic or for content to go onto its search engines. You can go and buy a botnet that'll actually do a probe on any links as well and look what's sitting behind those links and start looking to see if it can gain access to, for example, what web applications are on there or what servers that you've got running behind your firewall, if it can actually probe through your existing infrastructure. So there are some bad botnets out there, and we can actually stop those coming through your firewall as well. Linked in with some of this is also client reputation. So any of the boxes, the FortiGate units from 100D upwards, we can do client reputation. So what we can do is we set certain parameters. There are a set of defaults on the box. And for example, if I walk into the office, drop my laptop into the network, and it suddenly turns around and starts trying to access malware sites, it tries to download a piece of malware, does things that we deem are outside of the norm, then the client reputation can then turn around and go, actually, hang on a second, we think this client may have been compromised, and we will then lock the client down and stop the client being able to access any network resources and network services through the client reputation. Linked in with that as well, we also have the capability of doing sandboxing. So we can do sandboxing as an appliance, as a virtual machine, and also as a cloud service as well. So what sandboxing does is it takes a piece of content. It could be something that's downloaded off a website. It could be a file that's in an email. It puts it into effectively an endpoint, an emulated endpoint environment running Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10. It runs the Office products as well. So, for example, a PDF file could have some content in it that could be malicious. And what Sandbox does is it detonates that file and allows it to execute. And it does things like speeding up time, looking if the actual piece of code is then turning around and trying to change the registry, trying to download a piece of malware, etc. So all that makes up those makes up the services that's within a FortiGate, and then again that's backed up by the FortiGuard FortiGuard lab side as well, the 260 people at FortiGuard Labs. So FortiGuard Labs, as I said, it is Fortinet's in-house team, about 260 people. They are out there monitoring what's going on in the world, taking the feeds from the various FortiGate units that are out there. And if you actually look at the amount of traffic that's going through the devices out there, what they are seeing on a day-in, day-out basis, it's quite significant. And they are taking the feeds in from those 2.4 million devices out there. So they're also in discussions, and also work very closely with a number of other agencies around threat prevention and security, and they are then taking those all those feeds and providing that and feeding that back out to all their products out there, be it the antivirus, be it the IP reputation service, etc. So that is the feeds all out to all the other products out there as well. So I've been talking predominantly around the FortiGate side. As I mentioned earlier on at the start of this, FortiGate probably accounts for around 80% of everything that we sell. Linked to the FortiGate is a FortiManager, providing the management of numerous FortiGate units out there, implementing change control, FortiAnalyzer for doing detailed reporting and drill downs. Excuse me. We can attach Forti access points onto a FortiGate, provide full wireless capabilities. We can do guest wireless out there and guest login onto that wireless network, and we can also segregate that network as well. So we're making sure that any guest access is only is linked specifically to that guest access. They can't access other network resources within the network, and that's something that's quite important. I was reading an article the other day that some 70% of individuals can actually access services and servers and the likes within their networks that they shouldn't be allowed to access. And I have also come across customers who have guest wireless implemented, but haven't actually got it segregated on their through their infrastructure. And I've actually been able to see what servers and what's actually sitting inside their networks through coming in through guest access. Hopefully some of that had passwords on to access it as well, but I shouldn't have even been able to see any of that infrastructure. And that's something that people need to be aware of when implementing wireless, and particularly guest wireless as well. FortiClient I touched base on earlier on, so we can deploy FortiClient out where we can actually provide the same web filtering functionality and the intrusion prevention services onto Windows, Apple devices as well, and also Android-based devices. Bearing in mind, Android devices we can't actually lock down that well. Got two-factor authentication on there, and every FortiGate is a switch, but we also have some switching technology where we can extend the back plane on a FortiGate and all the security offerings right across onto a switch. So we can implement a Forti switch and provide the same VLANs and same controls over the back-end interfaces on that as we would on a FortiGate as well. So I've touched base on the FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager as well already, so we're not going to cover off too much more of that. In terms of the products themselves, if we start at the bottom end, we've got the entry-level products. Yeah, there is a 20C. I think that's actually about to go end of life. The entry point is actually a 30D and a 30E. If you've got customers that have got 3-5 users on there, the thing to note with the low end or the entry level units is they've also got the capabilities certain models have of having integrated wireless. So we can put something like a 60DN with integrated wireless and provide wireless coverage in a small office. If the customer needs to expand that wireless coverage, we can also plug in access points on there as well to give them extended coverage on there. We then move into the 100D series, the first 1U appliance. Again, all these units, it doesn't matter which unit it is, they can all drive access points, so we can actually run wireless off of them. But as we're going up, what we're doing is we're catering for the different throughput capabilities on these units. So the 100D, probably anywhere between around about 100-150 users could run through that, depending on what they're actually using it for. We then go into the mid-range series, anything from the 200D all the way up. We actually got a 900D series now as well. 200D, 300D is very popular in that area. some of that mid-size business as well. We then go into the 1000 series. Very popular product within here is the 1500D, specifically because of its price performance level. So a lot of people who are doing managed services are using the 1500D to provide part of their managed services through that, where they're virtualizing the actual machine and creating VDOMs in there as well. Very high throughput, very good performing product in there. And we then move on to our 3000 series, and some of the new 3000 series that are coming out will in fact match some of the chassis stuff that's available as well. So very high end, we're talking about 40 gig, 100 gig interfaces on some of the newer units that are coming out as well. And then we also have the chassis and blades for the likes of some of the carriers that are using that equipment as well. So we've got a very broad range of products. The same security is available across all of them, so it doesn't matter whether you're buying an entry-level unit or whether you're buying a 3000 series unit. Effectively, the software on them, the FortiOS is the same. The signatures, the AV, the IPS is the same across all those units. So there may be slight variations in the GUI across them, but it's effectively it's the same platform running across all the units. And you can manage all the units through FortiManager as well, right from the low-end entry-level products all the way up to the high-end products as well. And again, the FortiAnalyzer allows you to do reporting across the complete range too. So why do we win business? Why is Fortinet so successful? Now, some of the things I've mentioned this morning is part of it. So it is consolidated. We are consolidating the security offerings in there. I was on a call first thing this morning. Customer is replacing a Cisco IPS box, a Juniper firewall, and someone else's web filtering with a single FortiGate unit. So we were actually replacing 3 of his boxes he's having to manage on site with a single FortiGate unit. So that's reducing his complexity of managing that. In terms of performance, it's excellent on the performance side. So he's had some problems with the performance on the IPS. That's also allowed us in terms of the licensing. He's not having to license all those individual components. And as I said earlier on, Fortinet owns all the technologies. So you buy a UTM license, you turn on what you want, you turn off what you don't want. So there's no need to license the web filtering separately to the antivirus and stacking all these different licenses in there. It's also a great piece of technology. Got the Gartner reports, NSS Labs. It goes through the AV testing and AV comparative results on a continuing basis as well. And it's not just firewall. The number of customers that have bought FortiGates and then have subsequently realized that they can actually plug an access point into it, provide wireless coverage across an office, or guest wireless access in there as well. That's growing significantly. Been great to expand their offerings and what they're doing internally without adding complexity to the network. Again, it's got a 2-factor authentication controller in there. FortiClient. Every box comes with 10 free registered FortiClients on there, so you can actually, customers can test out FortiClient as well. And there is also 2 free tokens on every FortiGate units as well. So you can actually go and download a token or the token application onto your iOS or your Android device, and you can actually test the 2-factor authentication out. If the customer likes it, all he's got to do is buy the tokens, and he can expand that out as well. So that's the key reasons why we actually win business, isn't it? And being open and realistic, we don't win everything out there. I think this the statement in the top left-hand side is becoming a bit of a misnomer when you see some of the customers that we've got out there as well. We do come across people that are just so ingrained in checkpoints, very difficult to change their infrastructure as well. And we still come across the traditional Cisco products out there. But I think in terms of price, I think this is becoming also a lot less of an issue out there. And there is some low-end people out there that would just sell it at a lower price or very, very cheaply, bearing in mind some of these products you've then got to subsequently pay if you want to do web filtering on them as well. And I also recently heard that SonicWall or Dell have actually offloaded their security side of their business, their SonicWall business as well. So they will continue to develop that product in any major way if they've got the funding to develop that product further. We've got some great customers. So we've got a huge number of customers out there. Behind every ATM out there with RBS, there's effectively a FortiGate firewall out there providing RPS and also providing some VPN services in there. The likes of Argus are using the FortiGates as well. They're also using some of their wireless capabilities within each of their branches. Bet365, if you take Bet365 and the gambling sites, we do a couple of things with a number of the betting companies out there. They've been hit not just with potential threats coming through their network, but also people trying to take their networks down with DDoS. So we provide a number of technologies into those sites to help keep them up and going. And if you take something like a major horse racing event, they can't afford their systems to be down for a day. The amount of money that goes through them, that would lose them millions and millions of pounds per hour if they were down. So some great customer references out there, great customers who've got the Fortinet, various Fortinet products installed and running out there. So thank you very much for being on the call. Hopefully that's helped you all out in terms of understanding a bit more around Fortinet and the FortiGate side of things as well. I'm going to open everything up to anyone out there. I don't know if there's any questions that any of you want to run through, or got any questions, stuff I specifically want to ask. Obviously, there's no questions coming through. I haven't seen any sending through any questions. As I said, don't forget next Friday. Let your technical teams know about next Friday. We will be doing a technical session specifically around wireless. Please let the teams know and watch out for the additional WebExes coming through on other technical areas as well. We'll be talking next week about the wireless stuff, the wireless capabilities of that. As I said, got any questions, welcome to drop me an email, twiggins@exclusive-networks.co.uk. More than happy to give you a call back or answer your questions and see how we can help you out as well. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great Friday and a good weekend. Thank you.